Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to the Thursday VS Code live stream. We are live, coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee. Where are y'all at? What's up, everybody? I think Dimitri's the first one in the chat. We should have a prize for that. We don't, but we should. How's everybody doing? Dimitri, I don't know what that means. I assume that's hello. We'll just go with hello. Hello. How are you? How is everybody? How's your Thursday going? Good? Bad? Otherwise? It's all good. Either way, we are glad you're here. We're doing testing today, right? Right, producer? Testing? Yes, we're doing testing. And we got a very special guest coming on to talk about testing and doing testing from VS Code, something called Nightwatch. We'll get into that. What's up, Julian? How's it going? G5, what's up? Hey, Ron. Good morning. I'm going to start saying that from now on, y'all. Just good morning. By the way, do y'all say y'all? Is that a thing? What do y'all say? How do you refer to a group of people? What's up, Jagadish? Did I say that right? Jagadish? What's up, Dollar? How's it going? Thanks for being here. Y'all are awesome. Bad news, though. I'm out of coffee, so I might just have to leave the stream. Let's go get more. Poor planning. No, G5, you're cool. All right. We like to start things off on Thursday by closing our iPad so it doesn't distract us. We like to start things off on Thursday with a little bit of throwback, TikTok. What do we call it? This segment is like TikTok Throwback Thursday. I forget what it's called. Anyway, we like to go back and review some of our most popular TikToks in case you missed them. I know that you all subscribe, right? Everyone subscribes and follows. So you've all seen it. It's just a refresher. But yeah, we've got one. I think I know what this one is, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Producer, are we ready? Can we roll that?
When you wake up and choose chaos.
Sheesh. Shots fired at those light theme users out there. Listen, I'm a light theme user, Olivia. I just want you to know that. Olivia made that video. I'm not even going to ask you, chat, light theme or dark theme, because I already know the answer. You're going to yell at me and tell me only dark themes are legitimate. TikTok is evil. It can be if productivity is important to you. It is certainly is evil in that regard. But listen, if you don't want to do TikTok, then follow us on YouTube. We post everything. We cross-post. We post to TikTok. We post to YouTube. Where else should we post? You need to post to Instagram. Should we post to the Snapchats? Is it Snapchat or is it the Snapchats? I don't know. All right, listen, you've heard enough from me. Let's bring on our guest, David. David from Nightwatch, here to talk about testing, everybody's favorite subject. What's up, David? Welcome to the live stream.
Oh, thanks for having me, Burke. It's good to be on. And to your question of y'all, is when I started working for a US company. So the first US company I ever worked for was Mozilla, and I had a Texas manager. And ever since then, even now, I still use y'all when I kind of speak to some people, and it's been what, like 10 years or something. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
like, it had such an impact.
it's a great phrase. You can say y'all. I believe up north they say youans. What did you say before that?
I can't, I keep thinking back to it. I can never actually remember. I get into it. And then especially when I speak to some of my US friends nowadays, over Zoom, whatever, it's like, how y'all doing? And they're like, they always look at me funny and then they just carry on. They don't say anything anymore.
Like, who is this guy? All right, David, what are we doing today? Tell us who you are. Tell us what we're going to be talking about.
So hello everyone, I'm David. I'm at Automated Tester on socials. I do test automation, mostly building out tools for test automation to kind of make your lives easier, because I kind of believe the web is an amazing place and we should all kind of do our best and give out the highest quality code and things like that. But I also appreciate testing is boring. It's hard sometimes. Browsers are hard, right? Like asynchronicity, so especially for the JavaScript people. Like there's still times where I even get confused, and I worked on browser JavaScript, so like it's kind of hard. And so today I'm going to kind of show you a little bit about Nightwatch. It's a tool for kind of helping you do your testing, and how we've kind of gone through our journey to land up inside Visual Studio to kind of make people's lives easier, and things like that. So I've come from a wealth of experience. I've worked on the Selenium project for many, many years. I've worked on browsers for years. I'm a chair for the W3C, so I kind of do standards work as well. So kind of like the whole point of a lot of my job is just to make people's lives easier, but make sure it works across the board, right? Like monoculture can be a bit painful and hurts the web. So let's see if we can improve that along the way. And I've got cool demos to show you how I got to this point. So hopefully it'll be really cool.
Well, let's get into it. And just for clarification, yeah, G5, it is VS Code, although David said Visual Studio. It's confusing, though. I mean, one is Visual Studio, the other is Visual Studio Code. It's an easy mistake to make.
I'm sorry. It's yeah. I kind of I've moved between all the things. Like I used to be a .NET developer, and like I just kind of used it interchangeably. So
yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. If you can't read anything and you and you need me to change up the font, just let me know. And we'll kind of go through that process, and then just make sure that you can always see the examples always work. And hopefully the demo gods don't hate me today, because generally
chat, kind of let us know if you want the font size increased. Just let us know. Appreciate it. Oh, and before we get started, what theme? Let's just get that. I'm gonna guess. Can I guess at this theme?
Yeah, go for it.
Is this the Dracula theme?
I have no idea. I've set it up so long ago.
You don't know what theme is? All right, hold on. We'll go to, let's find out.
Right. So, theme?
Yeah, just go to theme.
Fortnite.
All right. Shout out to Sarah. That's a Sarah Drasner theme. Font size looks good. Awesome. The best extension for JavaScript in VS Code. Wow, that's like asking what the best song ever created is. It's really hard. I mean, everybody knows the answer. That's Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. But yeah, right. See, David knows. What's the best extension for JavaScript in VS Code, David? Tell us right now.
I don't know. I like this is the answer to this is how long is a piece of string, right? Like it's like everyone's got their favorites. Like with these things, I just generally go with the defaults built in. And I came across a little bug in the like JavaScript tooling today. While going through my demo, making sure everything was working. So that was fun. But like, you know, Nightwatch, you can run your jest tests. You can run like storybook tests, everything, right? Like you can do all of that. So like I kind of think the true answer, the real answer is pick the tool that's right for the task that you're doing, right? Like so many people go, here's this massive hammer. Let me smash it. And it's like, actually, I just need a pair of tweezers to get that job done, and just pick the right one. And I think kind of people do it too much. I've seen it so much with like Selenium. How do I test my browser with Selenium? I was like, oh, not my browser, my database with Selenium. You're like, what? Okay,
maybe my car won't run. Where is Selenium?
Yeah. Like I've seen it all. So it's yeah, no, I can't say there's one good tool. I have my favorite, which is like Nightwatch. It kind of does everything that I need it to do, like from unit test to end-to-end test. So it's cool. But it's all opinionated, right? Everyone's got their own opinion. Kind of find the one that works for you is probably my favorite answer.
I'm gonna go,
which is not very helpful.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with prettier here. That's my answer. I don't know, chat. What's your favorite JavaScript extension for VS Code? And we will and we'll move on. We'll get on with the demo. Let's do it, David.
Cool. So like today's demo, I'm going to kind of just show kind of a test running. And so like Nightwatch is about 7-8 years old. It's a tool for kind of testing JavaScript applications. So you can kind of do end-to-end tests, which is how I've got my emulator running there. So it can work on mobile, it can work on desktop, it can do unit tests, it can do API tests, it can kind of do everything, right? Like the whole point of it is to just like make that make testing experience good, right? Like our whole belief is like quality applications lead to everyone's lives being happier, right? Like truly, truly happy. I know I get frustrated when websites stop working or something else stops working. So yeah. And so this is a really basic test. It's kind of built in like it uses a fairly fluent API. And so you can kind of set different things, right? And you can do whatever you need to. So I've pressed the wrong file. So like in this case, I was just pulling this browser. And so like this is a thing a demo that I was doing for a group called Ministry of Testing. They've got this really cool test website. It allows you to do everything you want. So you can kind of do RESTful stuff, UI testing, end-to-end testing. It pretends to be a nice B&B that you can kind of set up your rooms with nice ocean views, right? And so we could easily test this. And let me just do that. However, I don't know if anyone who's watching has ever written an end-to-end test. There's so many problems that generally come up, right? Like people go, oh, I need to type this thing. And then the browser goes, okay, cool. And it just like zips through and like the item's not there. And it goes, well, I tried to type and it's not there. Have a nice day. And like the asynchronicity of browsers is when you're trying to do like super fast tests, that it's just painful. Like I don't know if you've ever had that, Burke, right? Like any kind of like front end development where you try to, and you're just like, wow.
Yeah, I haven't done a lot. I'm gonna be honest, David. I haven't done very much end-to-end testing, and I haven't done much testing in general. I feel like testing is like one of those things where everybody knows they're supposed to do it, but they like just in quiet just don't, and then hope nobody ever asks them whether or not they do it.
Yeah.
Is that true, chat?
I
don't work on huge code bases, right? Like there's no reason for me to do that. Usually I'm doing demos or something like that. So there's no reason for me to write an end-to-end test for my Create React app based project. Yeah.
No, I think you're right when it's like you said the quiet part out loud, right? Like people don't want to do the testing because it's hard, or it's this or it's that, right? Like and it's my application that probably won't need it now, right? Like it's
well, it's like time consuming, you know. It's one of those things where it's almost like when you're building something and you don't want to stop and take the time to get it inspected and make sure it's up to code and things like that. But the thing is, like, those things are there for a reason. Because if you don't do that, things can go horribly, horribly wrong. And then you're going to wish that you did, because the amount of time that you're going to spend to fix it is going to be far more expensive and lengthy than if you had just done it up front. To me, that's how testing is.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think for the most part, I think you're 100% correct, right? Like I know, and I've built a career off this whole space, trying to get people to do more testing. but actually do the right type of testing. Like the right type of testing tends to be the best type of testing, and right is different for every single project. And I kind of like the way emulating people in tests is also useful sometimes. And so this is where we get to things like this. And so like in this case, I've written a test. Oh, actually, I didn't write this test. I lie. I used the Nightwatch recorder that's built into Chrome. I can show that if people are interested, but there's a nice Chrome extension, hooks into DevTools, and uses the user experience recorder that's built into Chrome nowadays, and then exports you a lovely Nightwatch test. And it does like really simple things that you can kind of do. And so in this case, we've got a like navigation, we've got a click. So set values like typing, but it could be, it's a generic thing for just kind of moving things about, clicking. And then it's got a nice Fluent API where it goes, hey, I need to assert at this point, we've got a message. And, oh, I don't know if that's coming up. You can see the hover. And it's really cool, right? Like really, really simple. And this is a simple test. Now, before Visual Studio, the way people would do this, it was always kind of like, they would kind of do something like this, where they add something, then console.log and something, literally something, and then carry on their test, right? Like it was so hard to figure it out, right? And again, like you say, it's slow, it's hard to figure that stuff out, right? And then like we were like, there must be a better way to do this. And so we came to the realization that like we could do like add a debug statement, right? Like, and this is a specific to tests, right? The problem, and I'll show you what that might look like. I just want to check. I've been messing around with the configurations. That's cool. So it's going to turn up in the emulator on the side here. And so we just go like npx nightwatch, tests, test bash, run it, starts up, loads up the browser. We get to that point. And you can see that the test here was, or the website is not really kind of designed for mobile, but that's not a big deal. And like the way we used to do it, this is how people used to do it. It's like, oh, wait, I've made a mistake. I need to debug. And you could like hook in your dev tools. If you wanted to kind of go, actually, I want to do something else. It gives you kind of a REPL debugger that you can step into. But a lot of people also then found kind of just working in terminals and like doing command line a bit painful, right? And kind of a little bit harder to get going. But we know it's there, and some people work there, some people don't, right? Like, you know, not everyone uses VS Code. It's one of those ones, but like I use it, I love it, but it's trying to make sure that people could do it. But it was kind of like, it was really hard to do this, right? Like you could still do everything. Like I could try, I could do my asserts because it's a Fluent API. Everything is based off browser. And in this case, browser is whatever we're trying to speak to. In this case, it's an Android emulator, which is kind of cool. And if we wanted to finish, we could just kind of Control-C twice, and then the test runs, and it finishes.
So how are you connected to that emulator? Is that part of your
no
or your task?
No, so I'll show that. So in this case, right, so Nightwatch is built on top of Selenium, right? Like we're an opinionated Selenium, and we try to solve some of the problems that Selenium by design doesn't want to solve, right? Selenium was always wanted to be a browser automation tool, not a testing tool. Nightwatch wants to be a testing tool, right? Like I know that's a kind of weird distinction. And so in this case, we're just using a thing that Mozilla ships called Gecko Driver, and it allows you to run Selenium against Firefox. So in this case, I was running everything against Firefox, so Firefox on an Android device. And I could do the same for Safari. So if I go here, let me put my, I've still got my debug, so that's cool. Let's see if I can remember. There we are. And then in this case, we do like that. So I'll just use a simulator, and we can connect directly into the simulator.
Okay, so it's that Safari use simulator, I guess, that fires up or connects to the iOS simulator.
Yeah. So it's gonna. So in this case, like if I run that exact same command in this case, there's easier ways to do it, but I like it gets like the command line gets a bit tricky, and so this is why at this point I'm just gonna comment out things to just kind of for brevity, really. And so like if I do this, let it hit that thing, and so in this case it started up Safari driver. Started up Safari and got us back to that same point. Right?
Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty cool.
And so like if you like like for us, right, if you can run it on mobile devices, so like in this for the demos here, right, I'm just using emulators. If you plugged in your phone, you could connect to a real device as well and do the same on a real device.
What do you think most people do? Do they use, well, I guess if you're on Windows, you have no choice but to plug in a real device. I mean, I don't do any mobile testing, so I don't really know. Do people test on simulators? Do they test on devices? What do they do?
It's a mixture, right? So I work for BrowserStack. Like BrowserStack pays me to look after Nightwatch, and one of BrowserStack's main features is devices in the cloud that allow people to, like, you can send all these same commands that I'm doing here to a device in the cloud from your local machine. And so all I would do is I'd change these capabilities, these desired capabilities, and I'd be able to connect right up to a mobile device. And so I could connect to anything. And there's a huge raft. Actually, I might be able to, like, I'll show you, like, where did I put my browser? Sorry, there we are. So, typical. I've got an employee. Oh, okay. You can see I don't use this very often. 1 second while I. Oh no.
So this reminds. Yeah, so it's like it's a test.
I don't. Yeah. So I don't. Let me go. Like I don't use Chromium or Chrome in a lot.
So you don't have your passwords.
I don't have my passwords. Yeah, but
yeah,
like
same thing happens to me.
I work for Mozilla for like 9.5 years. It's very hard for me to leave Firefox now. But like, so in this case, you could use the Automate product or the app Automate. So you could even use Nightwatch to speak to drive your desktop application, not desktop, your mobile applications. It has to say, like, it can drive mobile applications. In this case, I was going for simplicity and focusing on web. but you can even extend it out for kind of like if you wanted to test your mobile app, you could kind of do that too.
Very cool. Yeah. So it looks so you can do both. You can test locally. You can test in the test cloud. Browser Stack has a test cloud that looks like our test cloud, which I think is like App Center. I think it used to be Xamarin Test Cloud. I think it's App Center Test now. There's a bunch of test clouds out there, which is cool. You can fire up a bunch of devices that you don't own and test your application on all of them.
Exactly, right. And so it's kind of nice that you like, again, it comes back to this belief of like trying to make these high quality applications. Our belief, which kind of goes, which is different to some of the other frameworks out there, is that like we want to give you the opportunity to use the same things that your users are using, right? Like some other tools, they'll be like, well, you know, it's a close enough approximation, you should be fine, right? Like in this case, we prefer using Chrome on Android if you wanted, and through an emulator if need be, or Safari through a simulator, or things like that, right? Like just making it there. But again, I'm not trying to sell the browser stack side of things. It's more kind of like Nightwatch, it's be where your users are. And make sure your tests work in the same way, because sometimes those close approximations might be hiding huge bugs, but it's risk-based, right? Like you've got to pick the right tool for the right opportunity. As I said right at the beginning, right? Like it's picking the right tool. So yeah, you can kind of move things about in Nightwatch.
Very nice.
And so yeah.
All right. So what else can we do with Nightwatch here?
So Nightwatch, as I said, like, this is how we got to debugging. We wanted to get into Visual Studio because, well, I like using Visual Studio. I hate kind of moving around for different things. I appreciate that there's a terminal in Visual Studio, but it's not always exactly what I want, right? And I want to kind of just focus on the right thing for the right people.
David, it's Visual Studio Code. Oh, no. We're going to confuse. Yes. The chat's going to be so confused. Listen, I think when you say Visual Studio, it should apply to both things. How about that, chat? From now on, this is Visual Studio. It's both things. Our branding people would be like, no, absolutely not, buddy.
Yeah, no,
let's check in with the chat if we could real quick, David.
Of course.
Just kind of going through here. Does Nightwatch end-to-end testing work with Vue?
Definitely. Actually, we used to have a like. I know they've recently moved away from Nightwatch, but Nightwatch used to be the kind of the tool of choice. But we definitely work with Vue, definitely work with React. In a little bit, I can even show you a bit of code how we that we've literally just released, but we're kind of just doing a bit of documentation around using Storybook. If you're big into Storybook for creating your components, if you're not just wanting to use Vue or React or whatever.
Very cool. Let's see. Do you use VS Code to edit VS Code? Yes, we do. That's got to have an editor. The question is, what did they originally use to build VS Code? So they had to use something because you're starting with nothing, right? So they had to use some editor to build VS Code up to the point where they could begin using VS Code to build VS Code. I have no idea what that was. Probably Visual Studio.
I was going to say.
All right, let's see. What else? Let's see here. Somebody said Copilot. Oh, somebody said testing for them gets a lot easier. What's up, Jay Miller's here. What's up, Jay? Testing is a lot easier with Copilot and other tools like Nightwatch. I wonder what he means. Like, how does Copilot help with testing? Just in writing the code, writing the tests.
Yeah. So like if you're using pure Selenium, there are times where like you got to write these like loops to just like, is this element there? Is this element there? Right? Like Copilot could just go, you go, is that element there? And it goes, whoa, here's the code for checking it out for you, right? Like it's all done.
Boom.
Nightwatch does that behind the hood, under the hood for you, right? Like if you want to interact with something and it's not there, it'll wait. It does all the auto waiting, which is like important, right? Browsers are hard when it comes to asynchronicity. So yeah.
Yes, they are. Anything special for testing inside of Docker containers?
Not really. So I kind like one of the things I kind of cut through for brevity. Actually, let me load up my browser again.
Also, while you do that, I forgot I had music ready to go and then I forgot to play it. Hold on. Let's try this. Is that too loud? Chat, let me know.
It's nice and chilled.
All right.
Like we've got this. It's probably not going to do it very. Can't see it, but like the GIF that's kind of going there. So this is on github.com/.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. Anyway, but in there, it does a whole bunch of questions, and it goes like, "Oh, where do you want to run this?" And if you want to run it in a Docker container, one of the last things that it'll do is like, "Oh, do you want to run this remotely or on your local machine?" And if you go remotely, you just tell it where that Docker container is. As long as that Docker container has like a Selenium server in it, we just know what to do at that point, and we'll go speak to it and sort it out for you.
Very nice. You take care of that. All right. One more question, and then let's do more demo. I just want to throw this one up because it has the word front page in it, and I feel like we have to address it because of that. So why is the Visual Studio 2022 is not able to edit HTML files into a form editor like front page? I don't know. This is the VS Code stream. I don't know anything about Visual Studio. I'm sorry. I can't answer this question. But thank you so much for referencing front page, which I deeply miss. That's how I started doing web dev, was by dragging things onto front page and then publishing them to GeoCities.
Yeah.
That's what we did in college. Yeah.
All right. Was my one.
Teach us more testing, David.
So yeah, like let's cancel that out. So it's just going to run. There's a slight bug in Safari, which it doesn't always do a click, which is annoying. Even if we wait for it, so that's it failing. And the nice thing about Nightwatch is that it kind of like it tries to help you through failures if you see it, right? Like, so it's always good. It's trying to help you make that test, because you said earlier, right? It's really hard to write tests, and when they fail, you kind of have to work out all these weird things. Nightwatch tries to help you. We call them actionable error messages, where we give you steps.
That's very nice. Instead of object reference not set to an instance of an object.
Yeah, or function is not a function, right?
Right. What is that? What's the JavaScript one that always?
Function is not a function.
Function is not a function. Yeah. To me in .NET, it was object reference not set to an instance of an object. I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know. Once you understand it, it's really not complicated at all. It's just, anyway, sorry. We digress.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So as I was saying before we went to questions, those questions were really good. And please do keep sending them. Like the whole point of kind of some of these problems when you're getting debugging is like it's really hard and to kind of keep things going. So in this case, we decided like we're going to write a VS Code extension. It's still kind of in pre-release as we work through some of the cool things with it. But the whole point is that like if you're having to move between things, it breaks flow. Do you know what flow is, Burke?
Like your development flow?
Yeah, no, like the mental state flow.
Yeah. Like I always think about that movie, The Social Network, where they're in the house and they've all got the headphones on, and he comes in to talk to whoever it is. I think it's actually Zuckerberg that's coding, and Justin Timberlake, whoever he's playing, is like, don't touch him. He's in the zone. Like, don't talk to him. Like, that's the flow. Don't interrupt the flow.
Exactly. And so we're big believers in good developer experience. We're always kind of updating it. And that's where we got to this point, right? Like, is to keep you directly in that flow. And so that's where we created the extension. It's currently, as I said, it's currently pre-release at the moment. And like, it's just adds an item to your testing on the right-hand side here. So I can, like, I'm sure you've seen all the, sorry, there we are in this case. Sorry.
Look, at least you have your sidebar on the right side of the screen. I'm impressed. Literally on the right side of the screen.
Oh, it makes sense to be on the right side. I never understood why they put it on the left. Like,
yeah, I'm team right side all the way.
Yeah.
Which also I think Visual Studio does that. Isn't Visual Studio on the right side, isn't it?
It's been a long time. I think so. And so like, for us, we wanted to be able to kind of keep in the same space, keep it doing the exact same thing. And like, because we got all the APIs that VS Code, I've got to make sure I do it right. VS Code.
You nailed it.
Yes.
Nobody has ever done it better than you just did it.
We were able to like just hook into the debugger and be able to run it. So like, I haven't changed anything. And I'm just going to kind of like, for us, it's just literally click the play button, or on the right of the screen there, there's another one, you can run it. And so like, I can pick a specific test, it's running it, it's gone back into Safari on the mobile device. Whoops. Continue testing. Cannot, with Safari, for their security, they kind of, like, if you try to interact with it with the browser while it's running a test, it gets very upset. This is that bug. It's hit the same issue that I mentioned earlier about the click.
So like, when you interrupt it like that, it just kind of gets in a stuck state?
No, well, this is, so earlier, the click is not working. And it's like in that case, the click hasn't worked, which has made the test then fail. So if I go to here, and I go like, just for simplicity,
back
like,
to Android.
Yeah, if I go back to Android, and save, run the same test. So I'll just kind of, let's close that out. And in this case, I'll run it there. The test passed, right? Like, it's a true browser differentiator bug, right? So it's really cool. Like, you suddenly gone, like, everything's in your Visual Studio. You've got your emulator to the left. Like, you can stay in the zone, as you put it earlier, right? Like,
right. We call that the inner loop, which I think is a Microsoft term, but it's like, the inner loop is when you're in your editor and you're coding, and the loop is like, you're debugging, you're running, you're testing, you're coding, you're debugging, you're running. And anytime you have to get out of that loop, anytime you have to go anywhere out of the loop, you lose context. You have to come back into context, and it's extremely difficult. So having everything right there, keep you in your context, is powerful for productivity.
Exactly. Wholeheartedly agree, which is why that's how we got to this point in VS Code, like, supporting it. And like, I can even set like debug statements. I can go here. This is where so earlier I said I found a bug in VS Code. This is it. So if I run it, my test is running, it's going to hit that point. So it's kind of, it kind of sits before the navigate, like, it's blocked at the navigator stage, even though it's saying there. And if I step over, because it's a Fluent API, it jumps to the end. And we found it if we do that with the pure JS debugger. So I'll be raising an issue after this to kind of showcase it.
We welcome
But-
your contributions
Yeah.
to the GitHub repo. I'm actually going to go look over on the VS Code repo. Like how many issues? 5,000 plus issues. 5,001 about to be.
Like and everything else is really good. Like I am not complaining whatsoever. Like if I don't have a Fluent API, so if I go to like there, and I then go browser, and I set my debug statement to there, and I go to my test, and I run it. I can, if I step over, it steps to the next line, which is why I knew it was it's purely because it's a Fluent API, and we like Fluent APIs. That's our kind of jam. Well,
is that
wrong button? Yeah.
I'm about to ask this question. It's going to sound real arrogant. There's no other way to ask it. Did Microsoft invent this concept? Because the first, of the Fluent API, because the first time I ever saw this was with Razor syntax in MVC. And then the next place that it showed up was in jQuery, but they didn't call it Fluent. They just called it chaining, but it's the same thing, right? Chaining and Fluent's the same idea.
Yeah.
Do you know where that comes from?
I don't. Like the first time I really saw a lot of it was kind of jQuery. Never used Razor. Like I did like ASP and then ASP.NET before kind of joining.
Oh, you didn't do MVC and Razor?
No. I'm
dude, those were the glory days. Yeah, that was amazing. I always felt like as a web developer, and Chad, I don't know if you felt like this as well. If you ever did ASP.NET, I always felt like I wasn't very good because I didn't understand things like the page lifecycle. Like there's a load event and there's a before load event, and in order to inject JavaScript, you have to like write some code that injects a click, and it was very hard. And then when MVC came out, I was like, oh, this is just web development, right? Like this is like super easy, and this like great templating syntax in the pages. Yeah, man, those were MVC made me feel like a real developer. That's what I'm trying to say.
I can't say I've ever felt like a real developer, even though I've been doing it for a long time. I keep trying, but my imposter syndrome kicks in like every day, and I'm just like,
all of us.
One of these days, they're going to catch me out.
Somebody it was a while back, but they were like, look, everyone is a real developer unless you use a light theme. And I was like, that's very mean. Let's see here. Does set value work with the shadow DOM?
Yes, it does. It should do. And if it doesn't, like, we'd be very keen to figure out. So like because it tries to, the way Selenium and therefore Nightwatch works is that it tries to send through, like, inject elements, inject events into the event loop of the browser, going, hey, this should happen at this DOM element. And it goes, oh, okay, cool. And then it just does it, right? Like it tries to be super smart. And then one of the key reasons for doing that is like, we found a lot of like websites, when you try to log in, if you're like firing JavaScript events, they'll be like, no, you're not allowed to log in. Because you can check if it's a real event, like it's called a trusted event in browser terms, actually happened. And so if it goes, there's no trusted events happening on this element, we're not going to allow you to log in. And so that's why we kind of try and make sure it works in the event loop of the browser. Okay, so does that to prevent people from using tools like this for nefarious purposes? Yes, it is. So there's a couple ways that people, and so I know like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, probably Facebook, a lot of them, they can detect if you're using Selenium under the hood. There's a thing built into the standard that goes, hey, If we detect this thing, the browser's not under the person's control; it's under automation control. And what they do is, like, in their test environments, they allow that through. In their production environments, they block it. And so some of the websites, it just loads up with like a blank page. I think Amazon, they just load you a blank page. They don't even like want to play games with you anymore.
Just
and
give you
like
nothing.
yeah. And Cloudflare goes, just give us a minute while we redirect you. And then they just put you into an endless loop, right? Because they don't trust you.
No, totally. And I have had this thought before where there's something, sorry, I've left this comment up too long, but I'll like find a service and I'll be like, oh, I wish this service had an API. They don't have a public API. And I'm like, well, but I could use an end-to-end testing framework and log into my account and scrape the page, which you're not. Listen, chat, that is not an endorsement to go do not do that with testing tools. I'm just saying the thought has been through my brain.
Yeah, the one that regularly comes up in like Selenium community and forums, chats, whatever, is like, I need to access this thing in Gmail as part of my test. It's like, yeah, don't try log in. Use the IMAP APIs, right? Like, just go in that way. Do not,
but it's
because that is
so
what's
hard.
It is, but it's also like using the UI through automation is against terms and conditions. So that if they spot it, they'll just shut down that account, right? Like, and it's painful to then have to go through that process.
Let's see here, Arnon. I moved my Visual Studio bar to the left side. Wow, that is.
Oh,
that is.
I'm checking.
I didn't even know you could do that. We're moving it to the right. What's going to happen is all the VS Code users are going to move it to the right, and all the Visual Studio users are going to move to the left, and we're literally going to be flip-flopped on the default positioning. All right, David, what else do we need to know here about Nightwatch?
So the last thing I was going to show, it's kind of really small, and it's a thing that we're like just about to release. So talking about Vue and what the person was saying earlier is that we're always trying to make sure that you're staying in the same place, getting that inner loop going, right? Focusing on that good development. And so kind of we're extending out Storybook. So Storybook, if you don't know, is a tool for kind of creating components for different spaces. In this case, it's a React component, but you can kind of do Vue, whatever, right? And you can build in your tests, your Nightwatch tests there, right? Like straight in. We will be adding kind of the usual play buttons so that you can kind of run it. At the moment, this is all based in the CLI. There's still kind of a few things that we're working through, but you just go kind of, in this case, like I hit an issue, but it's like you just go npx Nightwatch path to your story or stories if you want to test them, and it should run it. And so I try to create a brand new project, and that's where kind of I hit one or two dependency issues, and then it's kind of cascaded out. But this will be coming very soon, and so again, and then we'll be extending the VS Code extension to kind of be able to know how to like run these tests and other things. We do other component testing, like Vue, like with Vue, with React. Angular will come at some point because we're trying to build everything off Vite. And I know Angular's just talking about moving to Vite as a kind of build tool.
Is that Vite?
Yeah, I might be mispronouncing it.
I thought it was Vite.
Or Vite.
It's probably Vite. You're probably, no, that doesn't, Vite sounds better. Let's see. Okay, and yeah, Nate, we were just talking about that Angular.
Yeah, Angular will be coming at some point.
Isn't Angular JS the old Angular and the new Angular is just Angular?
Oh, I mix them up in the same way I mix up VS Code and Visual Studio.
Visual Studio, yeah. Nate, are you talking about like Angular 1 dot stuff or Angular 2 plus? Curious. There's still a lot of Angular 1 code out there.
There is, and Nightwatch does support both Angulars. There's we got a like you with Angular, if you run ng end to end and you don't have any tests, one of the options that it offers you is Nightwatch going, hey, you can install Nightwatch and get going. So yeah, you can do all that.
It's oh, hey, look, we got an answer. It's vite in French. It means fast. Okay, Mahmoud, how do we pronounce it? Is it vite or vite?
I would go with it's probably.
I'm gonna say vite. Vite does not sound like a French word to me, but I don't speak French, so I don't know where I'm getting that from.
Yeah, I think yeah. So like I've been speaking to Andre Russo, the guy who created Nightwatch. He's part of my team, and he's Romanian, and so he always says vite to me, and so and he's like very good with languages, so I've just been going with that one.
It's vit. Now vit. I'm American. Like, I don't know if what the French pronunciation of that word is. So it's definitely not vite. We know that. So it's either vite or vit. It's vite. Somebody said
I would say vit at that point. It's vite.
This has turned into how do we pronounce No one knows. When it's more vit than vate. Is that vit? That's vit.
Yeah.
It's vite.
No.
Okay, we have nobody. We don't know. We have no idea. We give
I've been butchering it clearly, so I apologize.
Man, I'm getting all the spam calls for some reason during this live stream. I don't know what it is. All right.
And so
okay.
that's it from my side. Like there's a Discord server if people want to come ask for help or kind of ask questions or not sure. You can also kind of message us on Twitter or message me on Twitter or anything like that. We're always happy to help and kind of get people going and kind of trying to make testing and things like that easier and better for everyone. So yeah.
Awesome. And producer, do we have a banner? There we go. There's a banner. All right. Before we let you go, David, it's time for what we like to call the lightning round, during which you have to answer a bunch of questions you don't want to have to answer.
Awesome.
All right. And then we'll let the chat just tell you if you're right or not. So first question, is it GIF or GIF?
GIF. Definitely GIF.
Okay. Question 2, Jason or JSON?
Jason.
That is also
not
correct.
JSON. Yeah, it's Jason.
JSON. That would be a French pronunciation of Jason, right? JSON.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe.
Okay. Let's see. Tabs or spaces?
Spaces.
GF.
It's spaces. Yeah. What like
tabs versus spaces? It's a simple question, David.
It's spaces. But it's funny. Like coming from .NET, everything was tabs, right? And it's like everything's working over there. I like spaces. Like I've done so much time in Python and JavaScript where like everything is kind of moved that way, not much space. Well, Python's a bit different, but yeah, it's always spaces. It's been spaces, and I'm weird like that.
Did you know? Have you ever seen the Stack Overflow survey where they determine that developers who use spaces make more money than developers who use tabs? And y'all, chat, you can go look this up. This is true. They did a whole data science, and then they try to control for every other possible factor that might be throwing it off. Like maybe it's the geographical reason. Maybe it's the language that you're coding in, right? They control for all that stuff, and they still can't get rid of it. Developers, so if you want to make more money, just switch from tabs to spaces. It's literally that easy. This is true. Go look it up. Well, you're a JavaScript person, right? I was going to say types or no types, but I feel like it's a foregone conclusion.
I am a JavaScript person. I'm also a Python person, but types always. Like it's so many footguns in not strongly typed languages that are painful, and this is where kind of testing, you have to do more and more testing the less types you have, where if you've got types, your IDE tells you, and that's what you should be focusing on, like trying to get those things right at the beginning, because if you run tests, you break that inner loop. So
I can't disagree with that anymore. It's just not possible. David, why do I need to tell the computer that something is a number? It's a computer. If I can see that it's a number, the computer can see that it's a number. Aren't we good to go? Here's the thing. I've never been bitten by a type error in production ever. Not one time has a type error been the problem. So I'm just, I get it, but I'm just not convinced. My personal
so like there's a guy, I think he works at Robinhood nowadays, Christian Legnito. He used to work at Facebook, used to work at Mozilla, and he had this amazing phrase, which was computers should always be waiting on humans, not humans waiting on computers, right? And I was like, yes, that makes perfect sense. And again, that leads to like types always.
Okay. All right. Last question. What's the one VS Code extension that you can't live without? I can't say Nightwatch. We've already been talking about Nightwatch is a given. What's the second extension that you can't live without?
Pylance.
Pylance, which is what for people who don't know Python?
It's the I think it's a Microsoft one. It's a Python kind of. It does like the typing, it checks everything, and formatting in
it's a linter.
VS Code. Yeah, and like it just makes my life easier. Like,
but it does like, formatting as well.
Yeah.
So is it like ESLint but for Python?
I think so. Like I always installing, and then like you start using, and then forget it's there, and then my life is just easier. Like that for me is the best extension. Truly, right? Like it's like ones where I kind of do it and they make my lives easier, even though kind of I forget that they're there. Then I'm happiest.
Very nice. Okay, chat. Just last check-in. Types are for cowards. Sheesh. I'll go with that. I'll back that. Spaces is correct always. I totally agree. You spend less time turning spaces to tabs. Maybe. We use types so we don't have to scratch our heads in production apps. Yeah, again, maybe I've never had this problem, so it's not. I'm not convinced. But an extension made for Python by Microsoft. I know, right? Crazy time to be alive. Actually, Jay was here in the chat earlier. Jay Miller. Yeah, actually, full disclosure, y'all should go follow Jay. He's on our Python team here. So if you're doing Python, connect with Jay on Twitter. He's the man. All right. That's it. David, thank you so much for being here. Chat, thank you for being here. Go check out Nightwatch, and we will see you back here next week, next Thursday. So have a great weekend, the rest of your day. Thanks, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Burke. Have a fantastic rest of your day.